Hello, everyone. This is Tom Fox. Welcome back for another episode of the award winning Data Driven Compliance. Today, I'm absolutely thrilled to have with me Marta Cadavid. Marta, first of all, welcome and thank you so much for taking the time to visit with me today.
Hey, thank you, Tom, for the invitation. It's a great pleasure to be with you and this wonderful compliance community.
Marta, could you tell us a little bit about your professional background?
Oh, great. Yes, I am from Colombia. I am an accountant and I love finance. And one of my dreams was to be a certified fraud examiner. And nowadays, I have more certification regarding economic crimes. And currently, I am the happy and proud co-founder of NoFraud Latam. And I am the CEO at this moment.
Let's talk about NoFraud Latam because I was not aware of this until you and I visited a little bit earlier. But one of the things that struck me when we visited is you are passionate about the fight against fraud. It almost seems to be in your DNA. Can you tell us why you're
Yes.
so passionate about that?
Since we became forensic auditors, we understood that the strong problem that the companies have right now is that they are losing money. They are destroying the economic value because fraud and misbehavior. And the another problem is the slow and low detection. So that's why we decide to work on that space. How we can just close the gap about the 12 months that in the best practices people are finding fraud. We decide to work on the corruption, waste, fraud, on how we can just don't wait 12 months. Maybe how about you can find fraud in 30 days? Or how about in real time? So since we understood this part, then we tie the finance part and how we can increase the economic value of the companies because fraud is an enemy. It's the silent enemy that is killing companies. Tom, nowadays there are companies that are broken, that they are losing a lot of money, but they don't know why, and it's because of fraud.
You mentioned the word corruption, and I wanted to use your mention of that word to go down the following road. Every couple of years, the ACFE puts out its report to the nations, and it's one of the best, if not the best, worldwide report on fraud.
Mhm.
And in that report, they always identify corruption as properly, in my mind, a subset of fraud. Many compliance professionals don't focus on fraud. They think, oh, that's what internal audit, that's what
Yeah.
fraud examiners, that's what those people look at. Not I don't have to worry about that from the compliance perspective. How do you feel about that?
Oh my God, this is so sad. And I agree with you. So, fraud is a phenomenon that encompasses many things, including misbehaviors. Okay. So, we need to understand that fraud is something that is damaging the companies, and corruption is the main factor that is happening in private corporations. We think that is the government is the only corrupt actor, but this is totally wrong. So, we are working with compliance or in the compliance sphere, we need to understand that fraud, corruption, abuse, waste, and any misbehaviors is part of our job prevention. So now we are talking about behavioral compliance, and we need to put human risk as a factor of the biggest risks in the companies. We need to understand how fraud happening, how corruption talks in the companies, how abuse is part of the fraud definition too. So my invitations to our compliance community is don't think that the auditor is the responsible one to find fraud because sometimes auditors say, I'm blind, I have nothing to do with this. Remember, prevention and detection is for the whole company, and we are responsible of that part too. So embrace the part of prevention of fraud, learn about it, and take the steps to improve the value of the company with your job.
You said a couple of other things I wanted to follow up on. You mentioned a 12-month retrospective look back, and that's certainly one strategy you can employ, but you advocated a much stronger and more robust strategy. You started with 30 days, and then you moved to real time.
Yes.
How can a compliance professional, a fraud risk examiner, or a corporation really move from that 1 year look back mindset to, okay, we're going to look at it before we make a payment at 30 days to, let's see if we can do this in real time? How do you make that transition, or how would you advise a company trying to do?
Tom, nowadays artificial intelligence is going to help us with that. With that. So we don't need to wait with fraud happiness or maybe corruption. Today we are able to predict, listen to me carefully, we are able to predict human behavior. It means read the intention before the person is going to do something bad against the company. How? Using artificial intelligence. This is the key part. The problem, Tom, is since artificial intelligence is a little bit disrupted, so we are still nervous to use it. We talk a lot about artificial intelligence, but when we try to embrace it, when we try to implement it in the company, sometimes we wait a little bit. That's waiting for maybe my colleague is going to do the project first. I am wait until that project is running. And this is the big mistake that many compliance officers are just committing now, because you don't have to wait. Artificial intelligence is a wonderful tool that is going to provide you the whole bunch of tools to help you to anticipate the behaviors.
You mentioned also a very interesting concept for the compliance professional. I'm going to call it in the risk category, but you named it specifically human risk.
Yes.
And I think you are spot on. And that risk can be in fraud, that risk can be in compliance, that risk can be in cybersecurity or a
Yes.
wide variety of other areas. How do you guys utilize behavioral analytics to help manage or at least monitor that human risk?
Basically, we developed a wonderful software based on artificial intelligence. We use a natural processing language. We combine the fraud triangle analytics and semantics to understand how people behave. It's simple. It's very simple. So we are able to predict, prevent, and detect human behavior in real time. It means that I don't have to wait 12 months, 30 or 30 days. I can understand that intention in this moment, right now, right here, before this behavior causes a lot of losses. That's the key part with artificial intelligence and the fraud triangle analytics.
So you mentioned your professional background. I am, by professional background, a lawyer. Can the strategies you've just articulated, can a lawyer do those, or does a lawyer say something like, "Oh no, I have to bring in the forensic accountants, I have to bring in the internal auditors, I have to bring in somebody else to data mine this and tell me if there's a problem?"
I think it's in order to have a wonderful strategy to prevent misbehaviors in the companies, you need a team. Okay, it's important to have a lawyer, it's important to have a data science person, it's important to have a certified fraud examiner. I think it's not like a job, it's an activity for only one person. That's why it's important that companies have a team with different with people with different backgrounds, because it's going to nurture the company strategy to mitigate this kind of risks. But the most important thing is that human resources, unbelievable human resources, is very important to us to prevent and detect misbehaviors. Because Tom, it's not only about fraud, it's not only about corruption or abuse, it's also about bullying, discrimination, harassment. And this kind of behavior causes a lot of losses in the companies. So, in conclusion, human is about fraud, corruption, sanctions, penalties, and suits, and legal issues.
You guys have, the company rather, has a tool called the Fraud Explorer, and I was extremely intrigued by that. Could you start off by telling us what is the Fraud Explorer?
The Fraud Explorer is a software or a methodology based on natural processing language. It means artificial intelligence. Semantics. It means the meaning of the words or expressions. plus the fraud triangle analytics. We are the only company in the world able to bring the fraud triangle analytics from the theory to life. So we put all of these three factors together, and also we create the largest behavioral library. Is like a dictionary with more than 100,000 expressions related to opportunities, pressure, rationalizations, and other misbehaviors and sociocultural issues. And then we are able to understand the culture in different countries, either in Spanish and English. And next year will be in Portuguese. And then we put all of these things in a beautiful database to work in real time. So we are able to read what the person is typing in the corporate devices, and then the information goes to this dictionary of expressions, and if something is similar to that expressions, the dashboard or the software is going to create a red flag. It's very easy to understand because we use unstructured data. So we are focused on communications and how people talk in the corporate environment.
So you use the phrases rationalization, pressure, and opportunity, which even I recognize from the fraud triangle.
Yes.
Is if I can recognize it, I will say many compliance professionals would too. And is using the fraud triangle as the basis to move forward, I think allows you to explain to people, explain to customers, explain to corporations, even compliance officers, really the underlying basis and how you're able to move forward with an established methodology. Have I got that close to correct?
Yes, this is a methodology that is composed by the technology, people, and process, where we are able to articulate the strategy for the communications in the company. So we are able to read the communications. So that's it's not only for fraud, it's for many areas in the company, including human resources and the legal team, compliance team, technology, cybersecurity. Remember that we are talking about misbehaviors. At the beginning, we start to work on this and fraud because it's our nature field. But little by little, when our clients implement a methodology and we were able to find all of these issues, we say, oh boy, we had something really strong and powerful that is going to help many business units in the company. So that's why our methodology works on maybe 24, 26 business units, because each business unit talks different. For example, the commercial side talks different than the treasury, for example. So we understand each business unit, each industry, and each country, at least in 21, 25 countries with speaking English and Spanish and Spanglish.
The sounds, let me step back. Many fraud risk professionals will say, if you allow me to come in and audit, if you allow me to come in and do something, I guarantee you I will find you money that was either negligently or intentionally paid wrongly. And then you can get some money back and you'll receive actually a dollar or financial benefit. But it seems like you guys have moved to not detection, but prevention, that you're able to use your data analytics tool to prevent a fraud before it occurs based upon the analysis through the fraud explorer. If once again I've gotten that correct, how do you talk to the fraud risk examiner? How do you talk to the chief financial officer who understands, yes, I'm going to get money back, but what's the benefit to me to prevention? How do you have that conversation with them?
Tom, that's very interesting. So at the beginning, we start thinking about detection, early detection, because it was our goal to close the gap of the 12 months. And then we say we are able to prevent, because little by little we were reading information about people try to do something. So once the alert was created, we can tell to the owner of the project, oh, John is going to do something like this. At this moment, I don't know how much money I'm going to lose, but at least I was able to mitigate the problem. So nowadays, When people have, for example, pressure, economic pressures, okay, they don't have money to pay the rent, or they're trying to get money in another part, we are able to understand that the person is a huge risk in the treasury department, for example. Okay. Sometimes understanding the intention, you are not able to read how much money you are going to recover or you are going to avoid the loss. So that's the issue. So understanding the intention is not going to give you a sign of money, okay? But it's going to help you to stop the problem before it happens. And this is the magical part. Sometimes we say prevention is not the best job because we are not able to say, yes, I detect $1 million fraud. No, in the prevention side, we say, I identified the person who has high risks in this moment. We have to move the person from treasury to another side of the business. That's the good part of this. I think now we can understand that it's not only to detect the losses. We need to anticipate human behavior in different spheres. Think about a person, a bully, trying to pressure to push a person to commit fraud. Okay, we can stop the situation too. We can identify that person who is going to sue the company because doesn't feel okay. So we can talk to the person before it happens. You see that it's not only about the money when we found the losses. It's
So, where do you see the use of data analytics and even more specifically behavioral analytics down the road in 2025 or maybe even to 2030?
we need to understand that behavioral compliance, even is something new for us, it's going to be a priority in 2 or 3 years. Many people in the United States and our country are talking about how we incorporate the human risks in our compliance maps, either for fraud, money laundering, for everything. Don't no, we need to be aware now that people bring risks in our companies. So that's why we need to understand human behavior, not in 2025, not in the future, starting now. Don't wait until this is a requirement by the government, because this is the problem. We need to incorporate human risks now, and then when the government decides to ask it, hey, it has to be in your risks maps. Now we are that's the important part. For me, as an expert on this matter and dealing with the good, the bad, and the ugly of human being every day, I can tell you that my clients have found a huge value when they understand what is happening with only one individual in the company that is able to cause a lot of damages, and we are able to anticipate that. So don't wait until 2025, start to do it now, because in the future it's not going to be it's going to be a request, not like a recommendation.
Marta, unfortunately, we are near the end of our time for this episode. First of all, I want to ask you, is there anything you wanted to add or that I didn't ask you wanted to talk about?
I think we need to be proactive. Nowadays we have the tools to do it. There are a lot of tools in the market, but be focused on human behavior now. So we have the data, which is the 75% of the data that we produce, everything about semantics information, like a communication, which is orphaned. You have the main resources. Now you need the tool. Find the right tool to exploit that data. And then be open for the disrupted tools. There are a lot of companies offering wonderful things, and we are here to help you with the Fraud Explorer as well. I think to be the best, you must have the ability to handle the words with the right tool.
You mentioned you're here to help. Let me ask you specifically if I'm sitting in North America, can you
Mhm.
help me?
Yes, of course. We started in Colombia. Now we are in United States, attending globally. So you can type the Fraud Explorer in your favorite browser and find us and LinkedIn as a Fraud Latam, and in our website as well. No fraud.
Marta, if anyone wanted to reach out to you for follow up or ask you any questions about any of the things you've talked about today, what might be the best way for them to do so?
People can find me on LinkedIn as a Marta Cadavid, CFE or CAMS. And I think they the first person on LinkedIn with this name. And I will be more than happy to help you. And also, my email is Cadavid, CADAVID, at no.
Marta, we are now at the end of our time, but I wanted to thank you again, and I hope we can continue this conversation.
Of course. Thank you, Tom, and thank you to everybody that is listening to the podcast. And remember, share the information. Somebody is waiting for this.